Evening, welcome to the, what is today's date?
The 14th.
The 14th. The October 14th Planning Board meeting. This meeting- Of November, I'm sorry, I'm just lost today. This
It's a
meeting will
full
be broadcast live and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. There may be a need for someone to zoom into the meeting. That will be allowed as well. Again, I apologize for my tardiness tonight, and welcome everyone. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Under departmental business, the town has hired a new conservation agent. That's Nadia Chalik. She's going to be starting on December 9th. Now I'm doing it too. Permitize implementation, online permitting will be live by the month's end. We're just tweaking a couple things with Concom, and then it will be good to go. The MBTA communities, I have a lot of handouts for you, and this is actually for all of them, not just MBTA communities. So I'd like to go through them with you. The first handout is for both Articles 6 and 7, just explaining what the MBTA communities law is and what the town is voting on. The second handout is for Article 6, and it shows a map, an estimate of units that could be built under the scenario, as well as pros and cons. The next handout is Article 7, and that is for the other potential district, and it gives an estimated unit count as well as the pros and cons, same as the last one. The next handout is for Article 8, the rezoning of 69 and 75 Central Street, and there's a map of the parcels in question as well as some information about what we're doing and what would change in terms of zoning and allowance there. Finally, as I mentioned, I misnamed something and it didn't end up getting to you, so it's its own separate document. And this is a handout on accessory dwelling units. That's Article 9 in the town warrant. And there will need to be a modification based off of the amendment that you're going to be reviewing tonight. So for this one specifically, it would, hopefully I'll get an approval from you with the addendum to be supplied to make the last change that needs to be done. But that's a separate item you'll be discussing tonight. So those are the articles. Master plan, we selected Weston and Sampson. We've already had our preliminary meeting with them. We're working through document needs as well as scoping out the project for the master plan. It's going to take a year, and there's going to be intense community engagement as part of that process. I also met with John Mahoney, who requested that the planning board endorse, for lack of a better word, a plan for a bike path between Patriot Place and Uptown. I did attach a map. I would like to get some conversation. I know that we've got a lot on the agenda today, but I would like to hear your thoughts on this. From where I stand, this would be a very preliminary plan, just like a feasibility at a very high level in terms of what needs to be done, what's the cost, things like that. It would probably be grant funded. I don't really have the budget to do it out of our departmental budget, so I'd be seeking a grant. MBTA community stuff might throw a wrench in that. But if you believe that this is something that would fall under your domain / my domain, I would be happy to pursue it. I just wanted to put it in front of you all. And other than that, I got some free time recently, so I have started revising the business development guide. I'll be meeting with all the applicable departments to make sure that the processes that are outlined in that guide are still in effect. They haven't changed in any way. And no real updates when it comes to the opportunities. They're all pretty large, long-term projects there. So I think out of all of that blah, 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 I think I need to have a vote on the handouts with the caveat of the handout for Article 9 will need a minor modification based off of the amendment that you're going to be reviewing today. So that's one vote that I need.
So you're just asking for our approval to go ahead and
Yeah, to
Distribute those.
distribute the handouts at town meeting. Yeah. And the moderators already reviewed these as well.
Yeah.
I did incorporate your
putting those
requests.
numbers in? Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the documents to be handed out at the town meeting. The
go.
Articles 6 and 7 MBTA communities, Law and Foxborough, and the Article 9 accessory dwelling units with the amendment as indicated.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then the other item that I would just like, I think it can be just informal, is just the conversation about whether or not you guys think that it's appropriate to take on the bike path plan, potentially.
Well, I guess my question to you is, do you guys have the bandwidth?
It's a good question. I think we probably do. We don't have a whole bunch that we plan on going before town meeting in spring. So I think spring is going to be the time that if I were to take this on, I'd be grant seeking. And then the plan itself probably wouldn't be till next fall.
So we've got some time to discuss and digest.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And in terms of your own involvement or anyone's involvement, I would just, recommend or advise keeping it in perspective about where that falls on the
Priorities.
priority
Yeah.
list.
Understood.
I mean, this is a nice to have, it's not a need to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Understood. Cool. That's all for me.
Okay.
Active subdivisions, Gabby?
Yes. We have a few subdivisions that are active right now. The 204 East Street subdivision, Pioneer Estates, they had a meeting on site to review the limits of clearing, so that clearing is going to be done soon. Clearing of trees has also been done at the subdivision right next to it, the 206 Abbie Estates.
Okay.
And we have the plans here for the board to sign, endorse the plans for that subdivision. One item that I did not put in the agenda, but I distributed a memo about the EisenhauerLn subdivision. They're asking the board to set the bond for the subdivision. It's a 4-lot subdivision on Rich Road. So the bond that they're, of the stuff that they need to complete is $170,742. We added 20% contingency, which would be $34,148. And so the total due for the bond would be $204,890. The town's engineering department has reviewed these estimates, and there was a tweak to one of the the items or prices, but it's been revised, so they're okay with the proposed bond amount.
That being the case, I'd make a motion that the board approve performance guarantee for the subdivision on Ridge Road. EisenhauerLn in the amount of $204,890.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would also request that the board consider the release of the lots for the subdivision contingent on the bond being submitted by the developer. It's lots numbered 1, 2, 3, 4.
For EisenhauerLn?
Yes.
So presuming they were to bring you a check tomorrow, you'd release the lots if we took a vote on that? Is that what you're asking?
Once the check clears, yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion to release the lots 1, 2, 3, 4, pending the clearing of the check for the performance guarantee.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, we have some minutes to approve from October 24th.
Everyone good with those?
Yes. Yep.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as submitted for October 24th, 2024.
I'll second that. Any further conversation about that? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is this?
So it's, this is an amendment for the warrant article number 9 on the accessory dwelling units. Would you like to lead this one?
Good evening.
Good evening, Barney.
So as you remember, when I was here a couple of weeks ago for the public hearing, I mentioned that in my drafting of Article 9, I had drafted improperly the paragraph that dealt with the parking. So I think you have what's in front of you is a proposed amendment. I've previously talked with Kevin about it. Also have met and discussed it with Frank Spillane. Have done some research to see what other towns might be doing as far as the issue. And what am proposing as a revision is fairly comparable to what I've seen in several other towns. So obviously the public hearing is closed. We can't reopen it. Based on my conversations with Frank, is if this amendment is acceptable to you, we would basically just need the consensus of the planning board to be stated at the town meeting that the planning board is in favor of the amendment. From a choreography standpoint, Jeff, I understand that you will be presenting the report. What we would do first would be to, Frank would waive the reading of the motion for the article. AdCom would give their presentation, then you would give the planning board report. And if during that report you would indicate that the planning board is of the awareness that an amendment is going to be made and the consensus of the board is to favor it, then I would then make the amendment after your report is done.
Okay.
And what is the difference between what was originally in it and?
Essentially, the way I wrote it was much too restrictive.
Okay.
I think you could actually read it to say that we're only going to allow one parking space on a lot where there's an accessory dwelling unit. So the way I've rewritten it is to really be geared towards the accessory dwelling unit, and again, it's only a minimum. So it does away with the restriction. I have no doubt that the way I wrote it would be approved by the Attorney General's office, but it's just much too restrictive.
Catherine, you're good?
Yeah, definitely.
You want a motion?
Yeah, sure.
I'll make a motion to support, endorse the proposed amendment to warrant Article 9, number 9.
Second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Barney. Appreciate
you.
it.
So just for planning and presentation, this will be part of the Article 9 handout?
Correct, yeah. We'll work together to amend it to make sure that the language is consistent with the amendment.
Actually, I can give you a copy of what the motion will be. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Barney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Lawson Farm phase.
Yeah. So next item is Lawson Farm Phase 1, 2, and 3, a bond reduction request.
So we received a request to reduce the performance guarantee at Lawson Farm. You have a memo in front of you. Phase 1 is mostly complete. The wheelchair ramps have not been installed, and then the mail kiosk needs to have a structure over it that still has not been built. But my understanding is that on Monday, contractor is meeting with Lance Del Priori on site to discuss the wheelchair ramps. Yes.
Why, if something's not complete, we've had a lot of issues with this subdivision. There's been bumps. Why would, first glance, I'm not comfortable reducing any bond until they've adhered to all of the requirements. I don't know if that's a tough stance, it is a full moon, but just the issues that we've had with the developers in this space, in this subdivision.
And we have made accommodations to them in the past, too.
Well, even with the reduction, we would still be
She's still
holding
in charge.
Still gonna be-
$700,000.
Yeah, there's almost a $500,000 still there on the bond, so,
Yeah, more than,
No, it's more than that, yeah.
no, if we did the reduction?
Yeah, if we do the reduction, we've still got 734,000.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I read it as 734 minus the 248.
So, do you have a point of view about this, Kath?
I mean, it's up to the board. You know, there are deadlines that the board could set again. But the subdivision completion date is December 1st, 2025. So they have to complete all of those items, you know, according.
Have we heard anything from any of the residents of that subdivision? Because they had a lot of issues.
Yeah, I mean, I received a letter, an email from one of the residents. They're having, you know, issues with, you know, the construction of the installation of the granite curbing that was messing up their lawns and things like that.
And has that been raised to the developer?
Yes,
And what was the response?
I did not receive a response.
Yeah, I am,
Talking sidewalks and granite curbing for over a year.
yeah,
Well over a year.
I'm not in support of releasing any of this. This is becoming a farce.
Are you here representing the,
I am, Mr. Chairman.
okay?
My name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. So what we're talking about, what Gabby was pointing out, is on Phase 1, which we had expected to have done by September. The only thing that's not complete, but is still on the bond, so the bond is still included, is the wheelchair ramps. And my understanding is they've scheduled the wheelchair ramp guy a few times. He's canceled.
This is the story, this is the saga, every
Well,
time.
it's, the reality is there's been a significant amount of work done, so all the roads are done in the first phase, all the sidewalks in the first phase are completely completed, all the curbing is done. What Gabby was just talking about was they were putting in throat stones behind catch basins. You've ever seen that, right? So they were putting that in, and it was, neighbors think they own to the curb. They don't. It's about 10 feet behind the curb. So the work was all being done within the layout. What happens many times is neighbors put their sprinklers on the town land or within the layout, and they get broken or cut, and then they get fixed. So that was done in that particular area. Coordination this whole time has been with Gabby and with Lance, have been totally kept informed. They've been on site. There's another meeting on Monday with another concrete guy who's supposedly going to come in and do those ramps. So everything else is done. The ramps are there. The bond money is still there.
But he's not responding.
No, that's, Gabby, please jump in here. I think he's been very responsive.
She just said she got a letter from a neighbor, and when did you get the letter? I mean, how long has he had to respond?
I think it was September. But he has been,
But
he
the
has
work
been
is
in
done.
communication with, you know, with the office, with Lance mostly. And he made commitments for the completion of Phase 1 in early September, and those, except for the wheelchair ramps, those have been completed. So there's
great.
a lot of work that took place. You know, we held them on doing the entrance to the subdivision, the layout, because it changed. We had the islands removed. We had waited for that for the islands to be installed while the other phases were being completed, and then we decided to, at the request of the DPW, we removed those islands. So that area was held up by us.
Can we keep a bigger than 20% contingency? Does it have to be 20%?
Well, that's what it's in our regulations.
Okay.
And let me just say another thing too is the numbers that you're looking at are, so for example, so in the numbers we give the town, we use the state numbers. So for a tree, and this is an example Gabby and I talked about the other day, for a tree, the state says $750. So Gabby went and talked to, jump in if I'm misstating, to Chris Gallagher and said, what number do you use? And Chris said 500.
500.
So just right there, it's 50%. Our numbers are way more expensive than what the reality of it is, which is fine because I know that the town has to plan for the fact that they might have to pull the bond. But even having Chris do it, you can see that it's significant. And then adding 20%. And as you just looked at, you have $1 million. It's $1 million. And even after the end of this, we have not asked for a reduction, period, since the beginning of the
Let me just
project.
ask a simple question that may clarify everything. Will the 734, 397 cover the town of Foxborough if we were have to complete the subdivision road
If they walk
and
today.
infrastructure? Is the 734 enough money?
It should be.
It should be, or it
Should,
is?
well, it is,
Well, I'm saying,
like-
Documentation.
like,
right, but I'm just putting it out there for the audience as well. If that money covers all the work that would be needed to be done to complete, then
and like.
I wouldn't be an objection
Mr.
to give them the 248. I know it's been a bumpy road, but if we're still covered, then, let's not
I mean,
bust
the only thing I
chops.
can say, Tracy, is, that money is for that purpose. It's not to
No, I
try
know.
and enforce better behaviors.
No, I know. As long as we are as positive as we can that this covers the whole thing, fine.
Well, with what Mr. Buckley said, is that the prices that they state are the prices that Mass DOT has set, which is much higher than, private contractor would do, but because of the town would have to abide by that cost, then yes.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, no.
No.
That being the case, I'd make a motion that the board reduce the bond for Lawson Farm subdivision by $248,855.34 to a new total of $734,397.
I'll second that.
Any further conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a further request for a bond release from 5 Springbrook Road. That's the next item.
Yeah, we received a request to, the project is complete. They have met all the requirements of their site plan approval. The as-built plans have been submitted. So they're requesting that they want to close out the project.
Yep.
And
Do we-
asking for the bond to be returned.
Do we have
I
a,
need to recuse myself. I'm a direct abutter.
okay. Do we have a memo on it, or no?
Yes, we do.
I don't know how much, I can't find it, so I can make the motion.
Well, you can vote to release all the
Release the whole bond,
funds.
okay. I'll make a motion to release the full amount of the bond from 5 Springbrook Road.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And we also have the Abbie Estates.
You just got to sign 20
Oh, you
million
just have to sign those,
pieces of
correct.
paper.
Okay, there we go. So next item is to discuss town meeting warrant articles 13 and 14, street acceptances for Authelet Way and Peterson Lane, London Estates subdivision.
So those two roads are being, are being viewed at town meeting, considered for acceptance. The reason that we wait until the last meeting prior to the town meeting is to make sure that all the work that needs to be done to prepare the roads for acceptance is done. The developers have to sweep the roads and have all the stormwater system vacuumed. So I have received a proof that this was done. So I would recommend that the board make a positive recommendation for the acceptance of these
So
roads.
Only one question, which was, there was an island there, and there was talk about them removing the island because of school buses
They
and all
can't.
that?
They cannot because,
Drainage, right?
yeah, because it's part of the stormwater system, so,
Okay, so that'll remain, okay.
yes.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve. Excuse me.
Make a positive recommendation.
Make a positive recommendation to approve the street acceptance for Authelet Way and Peterson Lane.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And,
And just,
go ahead.
so that's two separate articles,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, for Article 13 and Article 14.
okay. And next item is a continued public hearing, special permit, 73 Main Street, construction of an 8-unit multifamily dwelling by Briarwood Construction Corporation.
Thank you. Oh, thought we had to share.
Thanks, sir. Good to see you.
We had an extra one.
Spare.
Yeah.
Oh, we have an extra one here too, Cam. I know.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Cameron Gray, and I'm with Bay Colony Group. We're here on behalf of our client, Briarwood Construction, tonight to continue the discussion for our project at 73 Main Street. So if I could share my screen, I'll put up the rendering that I handed out to everyone. So I know it's been a while since we've been in front of the board regarding this project. So in that time, we have revised the site plan based off of comments received at our previous meetings discussing this project, as well as comments received from the town's consultants. So after a discussion with our client and the town, a decision was made to install a low-pressure sewer main. It'll be run down Main Street and would begin at the church located across the street and run down Main Street and to the existing sewer located just before the Rotary. So we have already designed that low-pressure sewer and submitted it with the town. So with the site now being serviced by the sewer, this has allowed us to eliminate the proposed septic system on site. So again, I know it's been a while since you guys have had this plan before you, but the proposed septic system was pretty extensive. It took up the whole parking area, and it extended towards the property line here to the southeast. So it was held up by retaining walls that would have been installed along the property line here. So since we were able to eliminate the septic system, it allowed us to eliminate some of those proposed walls and pull them further into the site, and allowed me to also lower the grade on site by 1 foot. So I was able to eliminate some stone walls in this area, and also the stone walls down in this area also. And you can see the proposed stone walls now are pulled into the site, so it's allowing the abutter to retain some of this property that they're currently using. So the building size and site configuration has remained the same. The stormwater management system will be revised to include a separator row that will provide further treatment to the runoff from the property. So it's located within the infiltration field, you can see. So this row of chambers will be separate from the infiltration field, and it's wrapped in a filter fabric, and it just provides additional treatment. We're also proposing to install a flared end located in the southeast portion of the property right here. So this is an existing low area, and they've had problems with it flooding. So this is to help alleviate the existing and future flooding that happens in this area. Along the northwestern property line, so up here in this area, we are also proposing to pull back our proposed retaining wall, and this allows us to retain the existing topography that allows the runoff to continue on its existing path. And then the last thing is we're still proposing the water connection from Glenwood Ave to Main Street that the town requested. And with that, I believe that touches on all the changes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So a couple quick things, Cam. The first one is relating to the area that the abutters, the Wheelers, I'm presuming that's who you were talking about?
Yep, up in this area.
Okay, so is that area in the green, or is it still within that whole white area that, where that blue circle is?
So what is it you're asking? Their
Well,
property?
you said by making the change, it would allow them to utilize land that they're currently using.
Yeah,
is-
I'm sorry. So, you can kind of see there's an existing tree line in here.
Mm-hmm.
So originally, we showed the retaining wall all the way up to the property line. So we were able to pull that back as far as we could while maintaining the parking area here. So it's not to what they're currently using, but it is allowing them a large portion.
And then on the northwest side, as you were talking about, you said that it would allow you to leave the water, movement the way it is today. And where does that go to right now?
So it's a low area, it's hard to see the grades, but there's a low area in here.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we originally showed the retaining wall pushed all the way up to this, to the abutter's property line. So by pulling it back, we're allowing the water continue on its existing path from the back of the property, as well as what it receives at the front of the property.
There's a comment from the consultant.
Yeah, so we received that in the consultant's letter, so that was something he would have liked us to address, so that's how we did it, by pulling back the retaining wall.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Anything else?
Yeah, Cam, my eyes aren't what they used to be. What is that grade, just where Kevin was just talking about, at basically top of foundation level there?
So the new top of foundation, or,
Yeah.
so I think the top of foundation retained the same, but I was able to, so the top of foundation is at 296.
It's 296?
Yep, and then the garage floor is at 294.5. So due to the high water on this site, I believe I had to retain the same top of foundation, but I was able to drop down my garage floor and like the whole finished grade of the site.
So that would be 294, you said, basically?
Yep.
Yep. And could you explain also, you had mentioned in that area, just sort of southwest of the sandbox outline, where you've got a stone wall going down from the grade, I assume, to where that's visitors parking?
Yep.
And what is that structure just to the right of that, right where you are? Yeah.
So that was the flared end I was talking about. So this is an existing low area. I don't have any pictures of it, but they've had issues where that area floods. So our solution for that was installing this flared end that'll tie directly into, hold on a second, I'm sorry, into the proposed drain manhole we have up here. That'll feed directly into the system in the street. So that will help alleviate the existing flooding issue and as well as any future flooding issues they have in this area.
What is that gold box?
So that's our dumpster pad.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And is that the only structure on site that would be tying into drainage in that way?
Yes, so that's feeding directly in that way, but, so I have an overflow located in this manhole, but it needs to, we need to meet a certain required recharge volume, so the infiltration field has been designed in accordance with the Mass DEP stormwater standards and is being treated with the MS4 standards before it discharges to the local stormwater drainage network.
Okay. And lastly, what is that, it looks to be about 20 feet, but I think it's probably a little more, that setback to the paved area from the property line, not where the visitors parking is, but back where the sandbox is located? Is that about 22,
24.
23 feet?
24.
24 feet? Man, you got better eyes than I got.
Have magnifying glasses on.
That's right.
Is it
And it's 25 to the parking.
25 to the parking? Okay.
So Cam, there were two sets of reviews by Weston and Sampson on this, and what you're showing us today, did that address both of those?
Yeah, so I prepared this responding to that first letter from Weston and Sampson, and then he went through again and reviewed it, and he didn't see any further issues.
Okay.
Yeah, all the items that were pointed out in the first letter were addressed, and the second letter is to say that all the things have been met. All the items are closed.
Any other questions from the board? If there's anyone in the audience who's here for this hearing and wishes to speak on it, I just need you to do two things. One is to walk to the microphone over there at the podium and to state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Erica Dolen, 17 Glenwood Avenue. So I'm surprised to see that it's still 8 units. I thought that there was some consideration going to be taken for those of us right literally directly in the line. So my question is, you said that on the north side of the building that you were removing the retaining wall for drainage, but you did also say yourself that it's low already. And for refresh from the last time we were here, I have all the pictures of this is our backyard and all the flooding that's already there. So without a retaining wall, and now you've got a whole nother, so this is that's our house, and this is all the flooding, and they want to put here, so I guess, so my direct question, this is more of the flooding. So my direct question is, how does removing the retaining wall help our backyard so that our kids can play and not be completely flooded even worse? Could you explain that? The removal of the retaining wall specifically?
So on that northwestern property line, we're not proposing to remove any retaining walls. We just simply pulled it back from the property line.
So you pulled it back?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, to allow
So
the
it will still
existing
be-
flow of water.
Okay. So then my other question is, what is the building offset from the corner of our physical property to the other one? How many feet?
It's 29 to the deck.
So it's 29 to the deck out back.
Okay, and then, so interestingly enough, in 2019, I have the minutes where when Briarwood was trying to build my house, the building offsets would be 75 feet from the property. These are the minutes that you guys put into rule on May 9th of 2019. It was 75 feet required building offset and a 35-foot buffer of landscape. How come in 2019 those were the rules, but now the rules are different and they can have 25 feet from my house to your house? I don't feel that that is fair, but also it just doesn't add up. And then additionally, I would ask the board respectfully, if you are considering to approve this, once again, referencing your decisions from 2019, you took into consideration the residents at Peterson Way, where they said that they had requested, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. They requested that a 6-foot fence be put in between the two properties prior to construction, and that was approved. So my request would be, if you are going to approve this, that perhaps we could discuss putting a 6-foot fence.
Is that a permanent fence or just during construction?
No, it's a I'm sorry, this is.
You're doing
I,
great.
I don't have to speak in the military, I just stand there. So it is in here. We had it highlighted. But the buffer was a big thing. Damn it. It is in here. But it was a Peterson Way, 6-foot fence.
Bill, do you recall that?
I'm trying to.
So maybe I can cut through the chase.
Yeah.
We already show a fence there, along with 6-foot arborvitae's along that line.
And is the fence 6 feet?
Yes.
Here we
it's
go.
So it's a 6-foot-high vinyl fence.
So there's a fence.
And then there's also arborvitae's. So it's arborvitae's, a fence, and arborvitae's, because there's some mature trees in there. So in that area, instead of knocking trees down to put in trees, it'll be fencing. And then the remainder will be arborvitae's on either side. Can you call it?
So in 2019, the board approved the installation of a 6-foot white vinyl fence to be completed before any framing permits were issued. So, yeah, sure, there might be a fence in a couple years when you're done, but in the meantime, our children play back there. And, I mean, we're talking, you said 24 feet building to building. And when you look at the photos I just sent down the line, I mean, that's like from me to Mrs. Jordan. I mean,
It's not 24 feet building to building, it's
To the property
24
line.
feet, or it's 29 feet to the property line.
okay.
At its closest point.
So what's?
5 feet difference.
So,
Well,
no, it's the property line.
Said
not to
building
the
to
other
building.
line.
I said the
building.
building offset, and you responded with
And
29.
then you said building to building, and that's not what it is.
Okay, so what is it then?
I don't have that, but it looks like it's about maybe 75 feet or so, at least.
Maybe, or it is?
I don't
Looks
have
like
it.
it looks like it is both.
It's quite a bit. And to address the other issue, the setback requirement for the rear of this building, and the same with the building at 17 Glenwood, is 75 feet. So it's the rear lot line that has a 75-foot setback. The side lot line is a 25-foot setback in this zone for a multifamily.
And what's the timing on the fence?
If you want us to put the fence up first, we can do that. That's not an issue. And I would, if you have your plan set, I would send you to sheet L 1.0, which I'm sorry we can't call it up. But you can look on that and look along that line and see that there's arborvitae's, and then there's a fence, and then there's arborvitae's again.
Yep.
I do have one final question, and then I'll sit down. On Lot 1 and Lot C, so obviously F, G, and H are staring into our backyard, which will be fun for them. But on Lots 1 and Lot C, is this forgive my ignorance, is this grass or is this just gonna be left the stuff that's there now? The
Existing condition?
Correct, thank you.
Yeah, so the limit of work would be essentially the end of these grades, so the rest would just be left as existing conditions.
Understood. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address this plan, please? Come up.
Good evening, Margaret Wheeler, 8 Garfield Street. I know it's been almost 8 months since we've talked about this. And I do hope there was a multitude of letters and a multitude of comments from the community and my daycare clients, really objecting to this plan. It's a beautiful rectangle woods surrounded by many of our neighbors here, and it just doesn't make sense to put it in for housing. I know Mr. Buckley had brought up the need for housing, and I'd like to mention we now know the majority of the Foxboro company and the Neponset Street will be torn down, expected to be used some for housing. The Sun Chronicle in May stated the former state hospital in Chestnut Green will have construction of 246 residential units. And the Century Company across the street at 62 Main Street has been vacant for over a year, and most likely will result in some housing. All of this within a mile of this proposed building. And the driveway to this, I think is worth commenting, will be across the street from our senior citizen housing. So we know that there's going to be traffic going left and right, coming out of 73 Main Street, and also from the senior center, which I think is a traffic concern. I've lived there for 32 years in home childcare, also for 32 years. I observed your visit on April 6th from my back porch. I saw you coming to stand at the edge. I think it was kind of a cloudy morning. And I was hoping you were able to see how close this project comes to my backyard. It stated that's where the fence would be, originally would be like a foot behind my pool. There's some litigation going that might come back a little bit, but I'm still very concerned about the construction process itself, loud noise with the tools, and flying debris and shingles and nails into my play area, into my pool. And this is not where we want our children to be several hours of each day. So I'd ask the planning board to consider concerns of all the abutters, all of us around. I think there's a couple other neighbors here as well. The flooding issues, the privacy, the boundaries, and the references made. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to make any comments or questions?
Good evening. My name is Mike Kaminsky. I live at 18 Winter Street in Foxboro. My questions are concerning 75 Main Street and the trees that abut that border on the, I guess, the westerly side. Will those trees remain? What's the footage in between the two buildings, the home of 73 Main Street and the new Main Street? And, is the health of these trees going to be compromised by the construction taking place there? The previous owner used to take care of those trees. They're right on the border. There are probably some on each property. I'm really not sure. So I'd like the board to consider what will be taking place there and whether or not a fence should be how tall a fence should be there for privacy purposes and things of that nature.
So, you mean along the line of both of those two houses? Is that what
Yes, there's very mature trees there. So the health of them, whether or not they're going to stay up. I mean, the diagram shows one tree here, but doesn't show anything else.
Can you guys address that?
So the wall has been pulled back, so it's about 10 feet off the property line. So anything within that area will remain. They won't be touched. And again, if I will send you to sheet L 1.0. Again, we're showing a line of arborvitae's and some fencing, again, an area where, where it's kind of directly abutting the house. So it's a combination of 6-foot-high arborvitae's, which grow pretty good every year, I think 10 to 12 inches a year. And then we have that fence in the middle. Again, it's a 6-foot-high vinyl fence. And then again, the arborvitae's pick back up. So that whole line from almost the beginning, almost at Main Street to back near the multifamily on 17, you can see it's a line of arborvitae's, fencing, arborvitae's, fencing, arborvitae's. And if you want to change it to fencing, we don't recommend that. Fencing
It's kind of
dies, falls down, breaks. Trees, arborvitae's should be there forever, and they'll grow, they're healthy growth. And if you look behind, like this building here, you can see how they're different, they're jolly greens, but you can see how they've sprouted up
Right.
over the years. So that's our recommendation, but if the board wants to go with fencing, we'll put fencing in.
I guess I'm just not clear, what will happen to the trees that are there now? They're gonna stay?
If it's within, if they're beyond 10 feet of the property line, they're going. If they're on the property line or within 10 feet of it, they're staying. So
You understand,
we located the big ones on there, and our landscape architect integrated that into the design. So I guess that's the answer. We're not
You're not taking down anything you don't need to, and
not
then you're
taking
putting
down
the
anything
fence
we
and the
don't need to,
arborvitae's.
right? We don't want to replace mature trees. But if they're within 10 feet of a property line, they're going to come down.
But we don't have that landscape plan here with this set.
It's on L10.
Oh, it is.
Could be.
It doesn't show much.
Yes.
I think that's showing your proposed plantings, but I don't think it designates
doesn't
any
designate the
existing house.
existing.
I don't think.
Oh, those round, no.
Round ones are the new arborvitae's.
I'm sorry, what are we looking
No.
at?
Where is, on L 1.0,
Showing the
where's the
existing
existing
trees that are gonna
trees?
They're very, very faint on this pitch, on this. If you go look at the existing conditions plan,
Which is,
sheet 2, they're a little bit better. So you can see the tree
Okay,
line
yep.
there.
they kind of look like a flower.
There's a 36-inch tree on the front.
Yep.
There's a 28-inch tree, and then there's a tree line there, which is what that is. And then so anything within 10 feet of the property line will stay. Anything 10 feet in or beyond it is going to go away.
Okay.
So some of that existing tree line will go away, but it will be replaced again by plantings, arborvitae's, and fencing.
It'd just be nice to know, as the project gets, I'm assuming, closer, that which trees are gonna stay, which trees are gonna go, and that
Well,
they,
I think he just answered that, sir. If it's 10 feet
Well-
in, how else, can they
What-
be marked?
Flag them.
If I may, when a project starts, they mark
The trees.
the trees that are going to the limit of clearing. So there will be, some flagging showing where, what is being kept.
And you should mention, I think, that you approved that limit.
Yeah, staff from the town has to go and look at that and make sure that they're according to the plans, so that they're not over clearing.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Banucci. I live in 17 Glenwood Ave, same as Erika Dolen. So, if you just scroll down. Can I come a little bit?
Yep, we just need you to talk into the microphone. I know you got to point and talk into the microphone, it's kind
All
of
right, so
difficult.
I'm living in the corner unit, 17 Glenwood Ave, Unit A, and the last 2 or 3 units are coming very close to the corner unit. So my children or anyone living in that space, so there's a direct view from the last 2 or 3 units. So my only concern is if they can bring it down to maybe 6 or maybe 4, so that there's no, I mean, it doesn't directly invade into the privacy.
So
Yeah,
you
that's
live,
cutting
you live in a similar multifamily structure, correct?
Yes,
How many units are there?
6.
6.
6, okay. And they were built in proximity to this existing piece of land?
Yes, that's right.
I guess my point is that, I'm not sure it's fair for you to tell the current landowner that he needs to adhere to a condition that may not have been impugned to your developer. So I'm not saying that we don't have the right to have a conversation about it, but I am saying that similarly, there was no multifamily structure there when you purchased, and now there is. Here's an additional multifamily structure that's within the zoning, and the lot that's here may be larger, it may have different conditions, and allows them to make the request for a full 8 units. Your children, did they consistently play right against with the tree line there, or what? I'm trying to understand your point.
So because I'm living in the corner unit, so my children and family members, they're using the backyard on the corner side. So yeah,
We're residents and we understand the concerns, but we do live in the United States of America where the person who owns the property can build what they want as long as it doesn't go against bylaws and regulations. And what they're proposing doesn't. And I know it's tough because I've had things built in other neighborhoods that are close to my friends, my family, myself. But, I mean, the only option is that I would purchase the land so it couldn't be built on. That's something I could have done. But he has the right, as long as it's within the guidelines and what they're asking for. It doesn't mean we won't talk to them about 6 units, but he is within his right to do so.
I totally understand, and
Thank you.
thank you. So the only thing is, like, when I bought the house 2 years back, it was from the same builder, and I was being told, like, that piece of land, there's not going to be any development at that point in time. So within 2 years, there's a change, and suddenly there's, like, this project which comes up. So that's a big shocker.
I understand, but I will say this as well, that that the gentleman from Briarwood did not own that property at the time. So, that's not an excuse, but it's, he couldn't predict that he would own it, and I don't know how long he pursued it to get control of it. I mean, it could have been the full 2 years, it may have been longer than that. And now that he has it, he's within his rights, not just based on the town of Foxborough, but a lot of people don't understand this. This is a Fifth Amendment right, it's a constitutional right, that people have the right to develop their property, to build on it what they want, as long as it meets the guidelines in the community they live in. So, I just needed to add that. It's something that goes way beyond the town of Foxborough or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
All right,
So
thank
just
you.
so
I
you
just wanted to
understand.
put forward my point of
You're
view
very
before the
welcome.
board. Yeah.
Glad you came.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Kevin, I'd like to ask one question before.
Please.
Cam, could you tell us what the difference in grade would be between the potential development property and the existing?
So we maintain the existing grades within that 10-foot buffer that Bill is touching on. So we're not grading off of our property onto any of the abutters' property. So the existing grade along that property line is going to maintain the existing grade.
So the 2 buildings will be pretty much at the same level?
foundation.
I'm not sure the finished grade of the building there. I don't have it in front of me, but I could look and see.
And I just want to reiterate.
I'm just curious,
yeah.
because if the existing building is lower, the new one is higher.
The existing building is going to be higher,
The existing building is going to be higher.
yes.
Okay.
It is higher, and it will be higher than this. I'm just looking at the grades, and it looks like, the basement of that existing building is around elevation 290, and our grade is going to be around 294. So their basement is, our building top of foundation will be about 4 feet higher than their basement. So the building will be that much lower.
So the building's
probably
actually
around-
low, which does afford a little bit more privacy.
Probably around 6 feet lower.
And from one thing I want to say from a flooding, because I was on the site visit, they cannot make the conditions any worse.
No.
They are not allowed.
Not allowed to.
Not allowed, based on town regulations, so.
And as Cam talked about, what we're trying to do is make it better, not just for us, but also for our neighbors, the Wheelers. And we would love to make it better for the Sinclairs, but their backyard is so low.
Yeah.
Their backyard is lower than the drains in the street. So there's no way to get the water from there into the street, which we would have done. But the grades, the elevations don't work.
Okay, thank you.
Charlene Hobel, I'm at 6 Garfield Street, Margie's neighbor. We've had water in our basement before, just nuisance water, so that's my big concern. Now, this right here, this is the drain,
That's an additional catchment area.
right here?
No, that's an additional catchment area. It's not the only drain on the site.
I'm just concerned that it's not gonna, the water problem's gonna get worse.
It
The water
can't.
displacement.
It cannot.
That's what you were just saying,
Yeah.
but
No,
that's what
Charlene,
my concern
what
is.
Cam had said earlier with that, that is actually gonna be a collection area, and then it is gonna travel out to the
To the
front.
street.
It's not gonna stay there, it's gonna move forward and be treated with the rest of the site run.
Yeah.
And that will work.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not an engineer, but I certainly hope so. It's-
And we have an outside firm that, for any development like this, reviews this. So that's independent from them, and they have confirmed that this will indeed be work.
Because I know that there's a development, not only where these people live in that new unit, the 6-unit unit, but the other development behind that, they have a retaining pond.
Yeah, that's not what that is.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. That's a catch basin, basically.
It's
That's,
gonna go right into the sewer.
Just like a catch
it's going to be
basin you
treated.
see in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think it's way too big.
We're entitled to your opinion. Thank you.
Bill, could you just, or Cam, the difference between what your elevation would be if sewer wasn't coming to the site?
So it would be what we proposed on our original site plan. So the the septic system really drove the train out there in terms of my finished elevation. So by getting rid of my proposed septic system, it allowed me to drop the finished grade of the site 1 foot. And that was being aggressive, where now the drainage field out front is more driving the train as opposed to that septic field.
Yep.
It also allowed us to not, as Cam pointed out before, like down in that southeast area and along that east area, we had a wall right up against the property line.
Yeah, I remember.
And we were filling all that for the septic. Now we don't have to do that. So it leaves a natural buffer in that area there. Plus, we'll still have plantings as shown on our drawing. So it wasn't just that we dropped it, it was not that much, but it also allowed us to bring in the limit of work and limit of clearing.
What is that purple thing?
That's a finished grade, so that's gonna be elevation 293.5.
Okay.
And just for what it's worth, for anyone out there who is interested in plantings, there is a sheet in this plan set that spells all that out. If you want to take a look at it, it's up at the office for review.
On the website.
Is it on the website?
Mr. Buckley, I have a question I'd like you to ask Mr. Ferroni, and that is, where the property is going to be developed closest to the Wheeler's property, would he consider putting a temporary work fence up just to keep some privacy for the kids
Yes.
and safety?
The answer is
Okay.
yes. You can put that into a condition, or we can add it to our SWIP.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Did forget just one short concern.
You need to come up.
Sorry, don't mean to make you walk more than you need to.
Will there be parking along here? Margaret Wheeler, 8 Garfield Street. So just need a little reassurance in terms of if we get snow, and unpredictable, maybe we could get snow. So I'd be a little concerned about snow piling up here and melting into my children's play area.
So you mean with the gray area, will there be parking? Or in the
Yes.
green area, the gray area?
Yes.
No, there'd have to be parking spaces there for there to be parking, correct, Mr. Buckley?
Yeah.
There's no parking there. That's a-
No
that's-
parking.
That's a driveway. That's an aisle.
There's no parking here?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
good question, though.
Thanks.
And Cam, can you show on the plan where the snow storage area is?
Maybe I was going to ask that.
If you look on sheet 8 of your plan,
Yeah, if you could just point that out on.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of on this rendering, it's a little faint, but you can see the squared off area here with the dots in it.
Yep,
We're proposing snow storage there, as well as down here.
where?
So the same thing. It's
Okay.
kind of squared off here with the dots in it, but yeah, it's on sheet 8 of the site plan. You can see them in red. It's
Yep.
much easier to read.
Yeah.
put the temporary fence on there.
Anyone else in the audience have any more questions or comments? Anybody else on the board?
We need to close it.
I would request that the board consider continuing the public hearing to December. I think that there's some legal issues that need to be resolved concerning the site, so would
Okay.
appreciate it if you could do that.
Okay.
Just in case, plans have to change or be
altered.
tweaked, yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for special permit at 73 Main Street, construction of an 8-unit multifamily dwelling, Briarhood Construction Corp.
I'll second.
Number 12, 720.
December 12th at 7:20. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your participation.
What's the date on the continuous?
The 12th.
All right. Being sometime past 7:20 PM, we have a continued public hearing, special permit 177 Chestnut Street. Construction of an 8-unit family dwelling for VRZ Realty LLC.
Where is this? Is this across from your place?
You missed this, you were out here. Well, it's right next to me. It's not in- right next to me, so I have to recuse. So, as I did in the last hearing, or the initial hearing, because I am a direct abutter, I have to recuse from this matter, so I'll step away from the
Are
table.
we going to end up closing this tonight?
Probably not.
Okay, because I'm gonna Mullins in.
You know what?
I'm gonna
I
have
thought
to-
you were going to call in sick.
No, I will need to Mullins. If it, yeah. That's a lovely tune. Where is this on Chestnut Street? Could somebody orient me?
It is, if you know where Putnam Village is,
Is it that,
it's the second property heading towards Mechanic Street on the same side. The first one is multifamily that Gibson did, and it's the property right after that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm running the show. It being slightly after 7:20 PM. Continued public hearing, special permit, 177 Chestnut Street. Mr. Spillane?
Do we have any paper?
Good evening, Attorney Frank Spillane here for the applicant, ZRV Realty LLC. Again, with me this evening is Robert Knepik of Allen Engineering Associates.
Oh, okay.
Of Hopedale, Mass.
Awesome, thank you.
And
How are you?
Joel, representing the
Thank you.
applicant. Since our last meeting, we've got the comments back from the town's consultants. We recently just responded to them. We have not heard back from them yet. We have done some revisions on the plans from comments we received from the board and from town departments and employees. And we can go over those with you, but we thought it would be best if we just wait until we got the full comments from the consultants to go over that with you. But what we'd like to do tonight is really focus on the landscaping plan. So we got some input from this board on the landscaping plan last time, and then show you some new exterior conditions of the building that I think does a little bit better justice. So right now, I'll just turn it over to Rob to do the landscape.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Rob Knapik from Allen Engineering. Thanks for the opportunity to show you what we've done since the last meeting. I know you've just gotten the plans, but I'd like to go through sort of broad brush what's happened. We've heard your comments, the comments of the abutter, and of course, your reviewing engineer, and also some town staff, town boards have made some comments, and we've addressed those comments. So on the plan set that we submitted, the cover sheet and the first sheet really haven't changed. The third sheet, 3 of 6, which we call the layout and utilities plan, in the main is the same insofar as there are 2 drainage structures. The drainage is subsurface with 2 basins. This plan does show the location of utilities, and with regard to utilities, nothing has changed except for the configuration of the water line. The fire chief made a comment that required a revision to the water line. We had initially showed a water line entering the property and going along the buildings, and we showed a pair of services to each unit, one for potable water, one for fire protection, and each of those fire protection and potable water connections had its own shutoff. The fire chief said it was his preference, and according to him, required by code, which I'm sure is correct, that in lieu of separate feeds, if you will, for fire protection, that there should be a main line that comes in, there should be a hydrant here, which we've added, and there should be some sort of an exterior location where the fire department can have control over the fire protection supply to each unit. So we've reconfigured the water line to address the fire chief's comment. The next sheet in our plan set is what we call the grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. And again, in the main, the grading is the same insofar as from a point about here, in fact, it's labeled ridge between Unit 8 and Unit 7. The existing site and the proposed site is graded as follows. From a line about here towards the road, drainage flows towards the road. And from a line here towards the rear of the site, drainage or stormwater flows to the rear of the site. Back to the front of the site, that stormwater that flows toward the road is channeled into and captured in a basin that it both infiltrates groundwater and provides for detention so that the peak flows are not increased. Similarly, the stormwater that flows to the rear of the site is channeled through a catch basin, some subsurface piping, and some surface swales, or a surface swale that runs along the rear of the building into a larger basin, because of course it's a greater area, where again, groundwater is captured and detained and infiltrates. There are a few changes to the configuration of the drainage that are in response to your peer reviewing engineer's comments, and the peer review was focused on stormwater. So, for example, some of the riprap swale sizes were increased. There were certain assumptions that we made that the peer review engineer said, well, you should perhaps make a different assumption, so we've done that. And we've addressed that in a letter back to the peer review engineer and to you that I've provided. It's a lot of, kind of arcane engineering stuff, but we're confident that we've addressed the drainage comments made by your peer review engineer. And if we're right about that, then the next thing that will happen is that the peer review engineer will say, yes, the comments are addressed. I will, though, stay on this page, because what we also did in response to comments from the board and from abutters was to do our best to reduce the clearing of the site and the grading toward the perimeter. So it's a little hard to see because I don't have an overlay, but we did pull back some of the grading in this area and also in this part of the site and in this part of the site. And again, that was in response to comments by you and by abutters. And the best way to see how we did that is really on the next sheet, which we call landscape and lighting plan. Given you have that sheet, it's sheet 5 of 7. What I'd like to give you now is a copy of that sheet, which is a reduced copy of the plan that's up on the easel here. And
We'll pass them so you can keep talking.
might as well, you might as well take them all. So there's actually 3 pieces of paper. We'll get to the other 2, but the first one, which again is a reduced copy of this sheet 5 of 7, it's colored up, and the keyed in colors it's as follows. That obviously the building is in brown, the pavement you can see. The detention basins are in the same general location, although this detention basin by the road, we did pull back towards the interior of the site. Now, again, in direct response to your comment and those of the neighbors, we've done a few things to do our best to provide as much screening as possible. Around the perimeter, what's shown in dark green is preserved landscaping. In other words, the limit of clearing did go closer to the property line in our initial submission. In this submission, we pulled it in as much as possible. And we're confident that that will have a meaningful effect because, as one abutter pointed out, you can see on this plan, you don't see the property line very well, but this is the site, this is the house, this is the access drive, this obviously is Chestnut Street. You can see that there is a significant amount of mature trees around the perimeter. So we've done our best to preserve that. In addition, we've supplemented in areas where we can't quite meet the buffer width that we'd like to with some additional planting. So when you see at the rear of the site, for example, this 8 white pines are proposed in this location. At the front of the site, we've done our best to preserve as much vegetation as possible. And you can see the effect of this. If you look here, you see that this says see photo 1. So that's a key that tells you that photo 1 is taken from approximately here, looking in this direction. Photo 1 is, of course, here. And photo 1 shows what is a berm, an existing berm, and some vegetation. And that is, as you're facing the access drive, to the right. what we show on the plan is supplementing the plantings along that access berm with the small shrubs that are shown there. Photo 2, you can see is keyed here. This arrow says see photo 2. Again, the key is that the photo 2 is from that perspective. That shows the sort of left-hand side of the drive and the vegetation that's there. And you can see again, in this part of the site, front left, we've done our what we can to preserve as much of that as possible. And it is pretty significant if you look at that photo. Again, we've supplemented that in the area where it says basin berm. We're showing some additional plantings there. And as you wrap around to the south, or this part of the site, we're showing some additional plantings where it says 5 PG, that's 5 Canadian spruce. So those are the revisions that we've made in an effort to enhance the screening and landscaping. Finally, there was a comment made at the last meeting that the front elevation view of the architectural plan set, and that's, I've given you that as well. It's together with the colored plan, and you also have it in the plan set. So the elevation view of the building showed that the slabs of each building and the roof line was just a consistent line. But that wasn't the case. I was told that we had liberty to adjust the heights of the building to accommodate the existing terrain. We're doing everything we can to minimize grading of the site and to make the buildings work with the site. So we did adjust the building heights to work with the site. That didn't change on our plan view, but what did change is this plan. You had asked for a plan that shows accurately the relationship from each of the 2, 4, 6, 8 units. So this would be a view of the building looking at the front of it with Chestnut Street to your right. Obviously, it steps down as you go toward the rear of the site. And this would be a view of it on the other side of the building. And finally, because that plan changed, the left elevation view really changed. The right elevation is the one that you see from the road looking at the building end. That doesn't change because the building drops down, but obviously the reverse is not the case. So I think I've addressed what I recall and what my notes tell me were the main comments of the board and the
Bless you.
abutters. I do, recognize that there's something for you to digest here and for your consultant, but if you have any questions, we're happy to try to address them.
You've definitely made some moves in the right direction with it. I do have a question on the colored handout, and it's also in the other plans as well. And that is on page 5 of 7, you're showing snow storage. It's on top of a septic system. Is that an issue?
It's really not.
Hold on one second. Can you go back to the, sorry.
My hearing isn't good, so that's why I approached you. But,
Oh, no worries. We can eat.
It's really not an issue because
Ron's loud.
we don't expect there to be, the septic systems are designed to infiltrate water through them, and it's not conceivable that there'd be so much snow that it would tax a septic system. So,
Okay. I just want to bring that up because
it's a
not
fair.
only snow, you're putting chemicals sitting there as well, so.
Again, we would minimize that, and even at that, they're not the kind of chemicals that affect the septic system that would, say, kill the bacteria that makes the septic system function or fill in the voids in the soil that the septic system depends on. So it's a fair question.
Ask that to be clarified by a peer review.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
A question, where's visitor parking?
So there really isn't visitor parking per se. Our interpretation of your bylaw was, I think it was it 2 or 3 spaces per unit? 2. Yeah. So if you
So we
look
have
on
3
sheet-
parking spaces in front of each unit.
You need how many, I'm sorry? 3?
No, it's 2 and a quarter per unit.
Each one has 3.
So we have 3. one in the garage and 2 in front.
Okay.
If you look on sheet 5 in your set, we do show a little, in unit 2, we do show how a car fits in the garage and 2 outside. And I think this question came up at the last meeting, but I would also expect that if, say, one unit did have some sort of a gathering and there was cars, the width of the drive aisle is such that I think you can see with your mind's eye. If you take this car and sort of put a stack of them along the edge here, there should be plenty of room for cars to fit there and still allow for somebody to come in and enter their driveway.
Okay, but hold on one second. It allows for a car to come in. What about a fire truck?
Emergency apparatus.
Emergency apparatus. It's not going to be able to get in there and turn around. Has the fire chief looked at this, that aspect of it?
The deputy fire chief has looked at it and sent us a memo. Did not mention.
Can you?
Usually, excuse,
Sorry.
we have, they look at that and they, they do express concern. So that's something that they look at. But if you want me to confirm.
Yeah, can you just confirm? Because that, I mean, you're not going to be able to get anything down there if you put an emergency vehicle, if there's a line of cars.
Do you know what the approximate width of that drive aisle is?
24 feet.
24 all the way down? Okay.
How,
How?
Potentially you could, but
but you
it'd
couldn't,
be tight.
yeah, yeah, let's get,
You're going to lose 8 to 9 feet
with a car.
with the car because of endorsement.
That, yeah, Gabby, if we
Parking
can,
spots are 9 foot.
yeah, I think we need to have, ask that specific question of the fire chief.
No, no.
Yeah. But again, there's not going to be any designated parking.
It doesn't matter.
All the parking
Frank,
is in
if
front.
there's really no place for visitor parking, so that's where they're all going to go. If somebody has one party there, that's going to line up that whole thing. So I want that specifically asked of the chief, please. That's of concern.
Question? Just to confirm, I just want to make sure that in that area, that drive lane that we're talking about, that whole section is curbed, I believe? Would it be? It will be, okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, if you look on, again, sheet 5 of 7,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
it does show, actually, I think, you see that double line? That is curbing. And also, if you look on sheet 3 of 6, it's called out as curbing. And there's also a detail sheet that, so the answer is yes, it is designed with a curb.
Yep.
What's the distance between that curbing to the property line at its narrowest point? This area here, what would be that distance?
Looking at the landscape sheet. So you've asked what's the distance between that point and the property line?
Yep.
20,
I'd say about 35.
22 feet or thereabouts. If you look on the scale, that's an inch is 20 feet. It's about an inch and a quarter, somewhere around 22 to 25 feet. At its closest point. Obviously, it gets further away.
Is there any reason that curbing could be brought closer to the property line?
Here?
Yeah.
Yes, and the reason is because of the difference in grade. If you're suggesting some sort of a turnaround, is that?
No, we're just making it wider.
Oh. Well, it could be a little bit wider.
It would help with any fire apparatus
Yeah.
concerns that we have.
Yeah, it could be not significantly, there's grading issues and such, but I don't see why it couldn't be made somewhere on the order of 2 to 4-ish feet wider.
Laroche would be a big help.
You know, guys, could we just
So-
suggest waiting
Yeah,
to
let's
hear
get
from
the-
the fire department
Yeah.
first?
Fire department
And here's
first.
another suggestion, not ideal for the future residents, but there could be markings done, like the yellow hatching that says fire lane along the side, parking prohibited. So that's another possibility. Again, not ideal for the residents. I would prefer it if we could get fire clearance as well as leaving that option for overflow parking,
If you
but,
make it wider, you're inviting parking.
Right.
yeah.
And, yeah, and I just think that it'll increase issues where there's gonna be more screening and vegetation potentially taken out, so it would be a trade-off. But of course, safety is all
well, let's see what
all
the chief
important,
has
but
to
let's
say.
see what they say.
Yep, we'll have that discussion.
On page 3 of 5, you're still showing a dumpster pad. If I remember correctly, in our last conversations, there was a conversation about swap off for trash cans.
We'll do whatever the board requests of us. My concern is we don't put a pad anywhere. All the units are sold, there's an association, and they say, we don't want to do single pickup, we want one big dumpster. And they put it anywhere they want.
Okay.
Just like the neighbor went the other way, they can always go back.
So your point is that wouldn't necessarily mean it would be constructed?
Well, the pad would be constructed but not used.
I think it would be a good idea to have it there, so that if they do it that way, it's there. If you want us to eliminate it, that's fine.
Okay.
The only issue is if they decide to do, one pickup for the whole association,
Right.
they may put it somewhere that nobody likes.
Okay, my fire apparatus concerns. If there's parking there, there's no, you're not gonna be able to get a trash truck down there.
There's no parking, there's no marked parking there.
But
They have the
he just
three-
said that that's where they would have to park their
They-
visitors.
If, just like in any other development, you have your designated parking. If there's overflow, they park wherever they're going to park. But for site plan review, we've indicated where the designated parking is for. But, we'll discuss it with the fire department and look at widening it. But there is no designated parking there.
But people are gonna park there, Frank.
People can park on the lawn, people can park on the street, people can park in the next building over.
Is there any way to, is there any way here to turn, could you create a little parking lot? It's not gonna be pretty.
What do you want?
I mean, could you create a little parking?
We can't there.
Before you get into unit 1.
Well, we have the required parking.
No, I know, but you have but I'm thinking if I'm,
Well, they have more than the required parking,
Yeah.
because they're required 2 spaces per unit.
I know that,
plus
but-
one for every.
I know.
Every 4
I
units.
know they're
And
meeting
they're
it.
providing 3.
but here's the, if I'm buying this place, if I have a party with 10 people,
You know 10 people that'll come.
I do, right here in this room. But I don't think it's an
it's a similar
attractive thing, but I
situation as
wouldn't be buying one there
Same as
because
any other
that would be a detractor for me. But we have to get the answer on the safety,
Yes.
Yeah.
because I can't believe Kelleher is going to look at that and be like, okay. Hey, I'm all about lighting and safety. We lost our drainage person with Johnny. Step down.
So one more from staff, if that's all right. Gabby noted that flowering pear trees are listed within the landscaping plan and that those have a propensity to break. Is there any possibility of substituting for a more hardy tree there?
Sure, yeah, if you have specific,
We do have, the DPW does have a list of trees that we can get from them and provide it to you.
yeah.
Good catch, Gab. Okay. You want me to make a motion?
Sure.
Oh, is anyone here to speak?
Oh, you should ask that first. Yes,
Yeah.
I should.
Does anyone want to speak on this?
Yes.
Okay. if you want to sit back at the table and then. Yep, just your name and address, please.
Yeah. My name's Wayne Roach, 181 Chestnut Street. We're abutters to the property. Well, we don't object to the project, just some concerns. You already raised one about the visitor parking. So there is no visitor parking. On our project next door, we have 10 overflow parking spaces. So if a fire apparatus or we have private trash collection, they have plenty of room to get down, turn around, and come out. So concern is if you have somebody has a party and has 10 people come to the party, where do those vehicles get parked? We don't want those vehicles coming over to our property and using our overflow parking.
You could have them towed.
Just a concern.
Yeah.
Second is the tree line between 181 and 177. They're mature pine trees now, very mature. Are those pine trees staying?
So, help me understand which area.
Sure.
Yeah.
It would be this property line right here.
Yeah. So the answer is yes and no. And the reason is because you're right. You can see from this aerial that there's a number of mature pine trees. As I explained, we've done everything we can to move the limit of clearing as far in this direction as we can. And
So what does that mean when you say as far as we can?
well, we can't go further because there's a septic system here. We can't go further here because there's a detention basin. However, in this area, there's no reason why the trees won't remain. What we've also done is, I failed to mention this, but the bylaw requires that where you can't, meet certain screening requirements, that a fence should be shown. So on our prior plan, we showed a fence.
6-foot white vinyl fence.
Yes. And we've clarified that to try to ensure that even though a fence will be here, that it will still be erected in a way that will maintain as much of the mature vegetation as possible. So our note says, as you can see again on sheet 5 of 7, I'll read it. 6-foot stockade vinyl fence, alignment of fence to be determined in the field based on the location of mature trees to be preserved. So the expectation is that, even if some, a straight fence would go through that 15-inch pine, well, no, you bend the fence around it a little bit because obviously maintaining the mature vegetation is more important than having a perfectly straight fence. So that's how, through a combination of moving the clearing and grading as far to the north as possible and providing for a fence alignment that respects the trees, we've done what we can to preserve that screening.
Okay. The third point was drainage in the retention pond. I know you talked about the retention pond back here. We have 6 units, and 5 and 6, it gets awfully wet in the back of our property. And 5 and 6 actually get water in their basement from time to time if there's a heavy rainstorm. They have some pumps there. So we just want to be ensured and guaranteed that
They can't
none
make
of
it
that
worse.
runoff.
They can't make it worse.
Okay.
They would be in violation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what we say and sometimes what happens is 2 different things.
Well, if it does happen, we have the teeth to enforce that.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And we've dealt with this in many, many instances throughout the years.
Okay.
And it's a concern with everybody.
Yep. Well, because there were notes too that snow storage was going to be along the line of our property too. So again, runoff from snow
Right,
melting, so we were worried about that also.
Understood. It's a fair concern, but we have teeth to,
Okay.
yeah.
And the last point was, I know we talked about it last time, dumpster versus private trash collection. We did have a dumpster at one point in time, the smell and the animals, so we got rid of the dumpster, we have private trash collection.
Right.
We asked if that could be considered moving forward.
Which is what I brought up recently, and
Right.
Attorney Spillane pointed out that if we ask them not to have the trash pad location and the association, thank you, Frank, decides that they want to have one, there's no control over where it'll end up.
Right.
At least if the pad is located on the plan, shown on the plan and developed, it doesn't mean a dumpster has to be there. But at least, if it is, the plan is correct, then it has to be there if it is to be used.
Now, but I think what the gentleman's asking is, could we make it a condition that it's got to be, and I don't think we can, and tell me if I'm,
You're on the right track.
can we mandate that it's private collection as a condition?
Well, in either case, it's private collection.
You're right.
But what I mean is, can we make it a condition that you can't have a dumpster?
I don't think you can.
I don't think we
I
can.
don't think you can.
I don't think we can either. But that's what I think he was asking.
Yeah, I was.
I was just trying to help. So we can't do that.
Okay. Just consideration, that's all.
Yeah.
No, it's a fair question.
Absolutely. You heard what you said last time, I brought it up this
You
time.
did, thank you. That's my point. So we're not opposed to the project, just some concerns.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you for sharing them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please come up, give your name and address.
And also, if you haven't signed in before you leave, please sign in. Sign in sheet.
Hello, Jane Calitri, 181 Chestnut Street. I just would like to make a further comment about the trees. It's been something that's been talked about. But at one point, we had an arborist come in because we had decided that there were some of the trees, their roots were showing, and they, as I said before, last time I was here, they're 80-foot trees. So what the arborist told us, and I would hopefully recommend that before anything is done with any of the trees, that you have an arborist. I don't know that you do, or that you had planned on that, but I would recommend that you do that before anything is done to the trees at all, any of them, because, as we learned, they depend on one another for the flow of the wind and so forth. Without that, even removing one is hazardous to the others, which would make them fall, and they're enormous. So it's just a recommendation, a comment and a recommendation that if you, before anything might need to be done to the trees, that you would contact an arborist. Is that something that I can throw out there at everyone?
Absolutely, you can throw it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Any further questions?
Close. Continue.
Continue, please.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing, special permit 177 Chestnut Street, construction of an 8-unit multifamily dwelling, VRZ Realty LLC, until December 12th?
December 12th, 7:30.
At 7:30.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you repeat the time and date?
Oh, December 12th at 7:30.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
you.
thank you.
Folks.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nopey. Put it to bed. Right now.
Sir? Frank. Oh, Frank. What's his name? Thank you. Oh, sir? You did a really good job. I just wanted to say you're very well prepared and addressed a lot of questions, so I just want to acknowledge that.
You get a reputation for being nice. You don't do that.
No, I was mean in the last hearing. I spread it out. It's a full moon.
Come to the party.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that somebody's phone?
30 seconds.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am a little upset this Chick-fil-A date is showing 2026. I just want to say I was all excited. Now I'm sad.
Help with that. That's what we're here to talk about.
Cover. Why the list my cover? Oh, can I bring that in too?
Yeah, you can. How are you guys?
Thank you.
Just give us 1 minute for,
Totally understandable.
still asleep. So he's probably been asleep since morning. Can't sleep. Once the boys are down, he sleeps.
See Sonia. This room, we're leaving tomorrow, we're coming back like 4 days later.
Pretty cut and dry.
By what, Jeff?
Your reports for town meeting, right?
Oh, yeah. You do what you do. It's okay. I don't want to say that. All right, it being sometime past 7:30 PM, we have a request for a minor modification of a site plan, Gillette Stadium, construction of a Chick-fil-A with Foxborough Realty Associates LLC. Good evening.
Where's Peter Tam?
He's on remotely.
Is he?
Yeah, just in case. Just in case.
You've relegated him to virtual. Like,
That's still billable.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ted Fire, Vice President, Construction and Development for the Kraft Group.
Hello.
With me tonight, I have Brian Early, Vice President, General Manager of Patriot Place. Joey Fonseca with Bowler Engineering, representing Chick-fil-A. Remotely, we do have Peter Tam from Goulston, in case there are any procedural things that we need help
I
with.
miss you, Peter.
And Jeffrey Dirk, our traffic consultant, as well, is on remotely, just in case, okay?
Yep.
So we're here tonight, as the chairman mentioned, requesting a minor modification to the Patriot Place Development Program to allow for Chick-fil-A, a 5,331 square foot quick-serve restaurant with drive-through, to be located in our Lot 19 at Patriot Place. Joey, if you wouldn't mind, yes, thank you. I have a little pointer here that hopefully will work. So a little background, we were before this board back in 2013 for the first time when we were doing the CVS, requesting approval to put a quick-serve restaurant in this Lot 20. It was approved back then. We never made a deal with Chick-fil-A back then, and so it wasn't built. We later came back to the board in 2019 when we made a deal with Starbucks, and we had a placeholder for Chick-fil-A again, and it was approved at that time in Lot 20. Unfortunately, we couldn't make a deal with Chick-fil-A. But thanks to the hard work of Mr. Early and his team at Patriot Place, we've now made an agreement with Chick-fil-A to locate them in our Lot 19, just up the road on Route 1. And in many ways, this is an improvement.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fire, can you get closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, in many ways, this is an improvement over what had been previously approved, because the vehicular entrance from Route 1 northbound into P8 and then into the lot with Chick-fil-A is a lot more comfortable than the kind of the hard right turn that we have for at P7. So it's kind of a silver lining for all the delay in getting the deal done. I think just a couple of other technical points for me, and then I'll hand it off. In our filing, we noted that the criteria that allows this review to be considered a minor mod under the Patriot Place Site Plan Review Program is met. And further, we met with the town's department heads on October 22nd to review these plans with them, and I thought we had a pretty healthy exchange, and we answered the questions that were raised that day. So with that, I'll hand it off to Joey, and he can give you more details on the project.
Sure, thanks, Ted. So my name is Joey Fonseca, I'm project manager with Bowler. I'm going to just run through just the site plan and just kind of touch on what's out there today, hit lighting, landscaping, and I'll show some building renderings at the end. So I'm going to start off with our, see if I can maximize this. I'll zoom in a little bit. Get into here. So on the screen right now in front of you all is the landscape rendering of the site plan. The existing site is just a large parking lot that's out there today. It's It's identified as Lot 19. So there's a total parking within this parking lot of approximately 279 spaces. Like I said, it's mostly paved. The current stormwater that's generated on this site flows south. There's a few catch basins along Patriot Way, which is along the south portion of this parking lot. It just gets collected there and conveyed into the stormwater system within Foxborough.
Could you just clarify, is that spaces currently or under this configuration?
It's currently just a paved parking lot, correct, yeah. In fact, I can switch to that aerial that I had previously, that's current aerial. Let me zoom into that, so you all can see that. But that's the current condition.
But the number of spaces is before the construction, the 219 that you mentioned.
Correct, 279.
279, sorry.
So the site's within a S1 special use within the Economic Development Area Overlay District here. So under the proposed conditions, which is what you all are seeing here, where Chick-fil-A is proposing a 5,300 square foot drive-through restaurant with an attached drive-through and associated canopies within that drive-through. I can go into more detail for the drive-through operations later on. I just kind of wanted to give an overview of the site plan here that's in front of you. I'm going to use my mouse. Hopefully you can see that. So in white here, this white rectangle represents the Chick-fil-A building. This bump out at the rear of the building is really where the pickup window / pickup door is located for the meal delivery for the meals within the drive-through. Parking field itself it generally follows what's out there today. Obviously, there's a more compact parking field here with the Chick-fil-A development being kind of along the perimeter of it. But we are showing the drive-through entrance being kind of in the northeast corner of the parcel. In close proximity to that is their trash enclosure. I will say their trash enclosure, the brick material matches the building. It is completely screened. There are vinyl doors that are in front of it. You don't see it as you drive past it. And there is a small shed associated with that trash enclosure. On the interior side, again, the parking field, the large parking field exists. We've broken up, that field with some landscape end islands to, increase some of the landscaping within here. As you saw before, it's just kind of a big, wide open paved area. So we're trying to introduce some additional landscaping there, reduce that impervious coverage along there. We are maintaining, slightly modifying, I call it the westerly entrance into this parking lot. There's only currently one entrance in. So we are modifying here. I'm just circling here with my mouse.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I'm just having like flashbacks of Starbucks down the other side of town. Are you envisioning that being an in and an out driveway?
One closer to the building.
Both curb cuts would be full movement, in and out.
That's of concern to me. We have a disaster at Forbes in Mansfield for Starbucks. Is there any appetite to make the right one an in and this one an out? That's going to be a problem. If any of you go to Starbucks at Forbes Crossing, that was a big mistake, the way that was structured.
I mean, we can certainly review it. I think if I can go through kind of the driveway leading into it, that might kind of answer some of your questions on that. So along with this development for the Chick-fil-A, we're also restriping Patriots Way, which is on the southerly edge of the site here. Currently, it's a right in, right out onto Washington. As you enter the site, it did split into two lanes where you could continue on to the stadium or it would head south towards the shops. It's a really wide access way there. There are some existing ticket booths that are there. As part of this proposal, those buildings would be demoed within that Patriots Place Way, and we'd be restriping that to create a drive aisle exiting the site, similar. Yep. Forgot I had a mouse. Similar to what's there today, but we'd be introducing an additional left lane that would be really for the sole purpose of entering the Chick-fil-A restaurant. So you'd still have one lane that's, again, drive aisle that's heading east towards the stadium, and again, you'd still have that drive aisle that's going south towards the shops, but we'd have an additional drive aisle there for customers that are visiting this location to be able to queue into that left lane, turn into the site, that way they're not blocking any traffic that's heading
Yeah,
towards the
I'm not
stadium.
worried about the turning in, I'm worried about the coming out. Because hold on, I won't talk as I go. This is gonna be, you're gonna have 2 lanes, try and merge to get out, that's pretty sharp. You know, either can we shove it down or something? That's not gonna operate well as a 2-way.
So this will just be a single car exit. It does look wide here, but there's a few
Even with a single
turns.
car, that is a tight turn. I don't know if you've ever visited Starbucks at Forbes Crossing. Go check it out. It is a disaster.
But it's a much smaller lot. I mean, in perspective, this is a much larger facility to maintain vehicular.
What? But what's the downside of doing one in, one out?
You're just making all the movements into that one driveway. So you've got drive-through exiting in that one drive aisle, as well as everyone that's leaving the restaurant that was dining in or, picking up their mobile order.
Can you shove it? Can you, I don't mean that way. I didn't mean that way. Can you move it down?
That girl, Tracy.
Do you know what I'm saying? I just think there's got to be a better answer there. I don't know if it's shoving it down, not shoving it, or making it a one-way. I would just ask that.
You're also going to limit the queuing by doing that. So this allows for queuing literally to the first entrance in.
What do you mean, Brian?
So if the first entrance at the westernmost
Yep.
there, in here, this is queuing that's presented here. If you eliminated this or you move this down, you're eliminating some of the queuing opportunity.
Do we
It's not
really
gonna-
think it's going to be that long a queue?
This is the exiting.
We have one in South
Yes.
Attleboro, and the queue is always very long.
I mean, we're obviously hoping for success here.
Hey, I probably can keep you guys this in business, just myself.
To that end, I don't think, any guest coming in and only into here, there is concern that if we only have queuing to here.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm really worried about that, them coming out
From the drive-through lane.
from the drive-through.
Yeah. If
I
two or
mean,
three
we
cars
put
are
a-
trying to get out on the road, they're not gonna get out. It's a little bit, hard to tell on a site this big, and, how wide is that? The
That-
actual driveway area.
That exit lane is 15 feet wide.
Question.
So it's allowing for a wide turn. We've put an AutoCAD and auto turn template to that to make sure that you're not, as a car is exiting, they're not, coming into this outer lane, that they're able to make this turn. So it is wider. Typically, this would be 12 feet, sometimes maybe 10 feet. It is wider to account for that. It is, there are a few bends here as you're exiting, but we did want to make sure this was comfortable enough for a car to be able to make that turn and not have to swing wide enough and block that lane. I will also say there's also some electrical infrastructure that's along here that we're keeping. So it's within this end island here, which that sort of limits us where that edge of that curb line is.
So if Jeff is on the call, if he's able to weigh in, I want him to have an opportunity to speak to these issues as well. If he's able to.
Mr. Dirk?
If you can hear me, yes. Good evening. By way of introduction, Jeffrey Dirk, managing partner with Vanessa and Associates. So I did, as you were speaking, I had a chance to pull up the Forbes Crossing site with the Starbucks, and I do see what you're saying in terms of there's not a lot of depth between the exit from the drive-through. I think probably as we were talking about it, having the illustration of the vehicle turning, or potentially even just increasing the radius exiting the drive-through, might be something that could address what the concern is. Because I think what you're concerned about, and I think you can see it in the images, and I know you know it at Foxborough Crossing, which is you're concerned about the hard right turn swinging over the center line of that driveway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that there are some design things that can be done, and maybe it is, it is, you know, showing the template, but it also could be just increasing that radius on the exit in addition to the template to show that that vehicle doesn't swing past that center line.
I
Makes
mean,
sense.
We can certainly increase the radius there.
Okay.
And we can certainly sweep that in, yep.
And I think it's just help, like, because you don't want cars backing up after they get their food, because they can't take that right.
And that's also the other reasoning for having the full movement further down as well. I mean, the operators for these restaurants, they're trained in just how to handle traffic coming into their site as far as using the drive-through as well as exiting. If they see that, you know, during a grand opening that there is, you know, a large amount of, you know, customers that are here and there's a high volume, they'll adjust the traffic on site to make sure that they're not creating any gridlock within there.
Oh, I've seen them. They are masters at it.
Yeah. So they do a great job at
Yeah.
preventing that from occurring on these sites.
Yeah, that would be good. If we could just see if we could fiddle with it a little bit.
So I'll just continue through, just regarding the drive-through, there's about 900 feet of drive-through lane here, which is much higher than, you know, a lot of the surrounding Chick-fil-A's here. Within their queue, they've got a pretty healthy queue here, which is great for this restaurant. They are excited about the possibility of coming here to Foxboro, and this is a great location for it. And this drive-through and the orientation of it, you know, is like I mentioned before, is a healthy queue for that stacking
Are there
and even
3
entering
lines?
the drive-through.
Sorry. Are there 3?
So there are 3.
And then they merge?
Correct.
to
So,
2?
correct, yeah. So you know, after COVID, they learned a lot through what their customer base was doing. Their seats, the interior dining was closed, and a lot of people really started to go towards their mobile adoption program, which is, you know, ordering through their app. And most people, you know, especially the younger generation, they love doing that. So what they've done is their prototypical build is 2 lanes entering, 2 2 lanes at the meal delivery, which is what that second canopy is here, where that pickup door is. That'll still be the case. That outside lane would be for the mobile orders, so they have what they call geofencing around it. They'll know when their customer enters through the app. They'll start preparing their meal, they'll enter that mobile lane, and they'll enter the queue that way so that they're kind of quickly getting their meals delivered. They're not waiting in the queue with all the other drive-through orders are happening. So it's just a quicker way to kind of process those orders and prioritize them. And it's not on all the time. The operator will turn that feature on and off as needed. Certain locations have a higher mobile demand than others, but it gives the operator flexibility here for that. But the other 2 lanes will operate, again, during peak times, you'll have 2 lanes. Off-peak times, the operator will just use that inside lane for ordering and meal delivery. It's similar to, if you've ever been to a Chick-fil-A, you've seen it. They operate it differently. Peak times, they will have team members out there. Off-peak, they won't. But it's all really per location, and the operator controls a lot of that as well.
They are well-oiled machines.
Yeah, they do a great job with training, and the operators do a great job with, you know, with their team member selection and all that, so it's great. So the interior seats for this, there'll be 74 interior dining seats. There's about 16 seats in the patio, and the patio is kind of in this sort of southeast corner here. For some outdoor seasonal seating. The total parking area in here is about 148 spaces, and just for required parking for this restaurant, it's 54 spaces, so well above the required parking.
So is this parking dedicated for tenant only?
Yes, while in operation.
So during a game day, they might not be in operation and you
Well,
park.
They'll never be. They're not open on Sunday.
Exactly. So we have an agreement with them that we would revert back to using that lot when they're not open. Just for clarification, that lot, if anyone's not aware, is not a lot that we use generally for any of the stadium events. It's kind of literally an island that only in special situations have we had to use that lot in the last 10 years.
Is that Route 1 access used now? Is that one of the gates that's always open? Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The access from Route
Yeah,
1.
P8, yeah, oh,
entrance.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
That's one of the main,
Main
right in,
entrances,
right
yeah.
outs.
So as part of this proposal, we've got, as you can see here, with the landscape rendering, we've got, a healthy amount of trees planted around there, especially along Route 1, which is buffering, with street trees are required for shade as well as the shrubs there, but that's also creating a buffer between Route 1 and the drive-through along there, and that's a pretty dense row along that drive-through. So along with all the other landscape improvements here, I think we've got a total of about 21 trees that are canopy, shade trees and evergreen varieties, along with scattered throughout, again, along Route 1 and even within that interior parking area. We've got over 200 shrubs, perennials, ornamental grasses, et cetera, throughout there. So certainly an enhancement over what the existing condition is out there today. With this improvement, we're reducing the impervious coverage by about 11,000 square feet, which is pretty considerable here. So certainly, increasing that pervious area, reducing stormwater runoff off-site, stormwater rates and volumes considerably. Stormwater quality will be, slightly improved. There'll be additional catch basins here. There'll be deep sump catch basins, so you'll get that added benefit there for water quality. And then again, all the stormwater just kind of ties into the existing system that's on site today. But again, a pretty large reduction in overall impervious coverage. I'm going to switch to that's just our site plan, our lighting plan. So lighting is, in yellow here are showing the parking lot lighting for the main parking area, and that's going to be a mixture of lights that exist today and some newer lights, but they're all going to match what's out there today within that parking area. And again, it's just to really kind of, light that parking area, make sure we've got enough light levels there. In the light poles that are highlighted in blue or cyan there are light poles that are strictly for the drive-through, so those will be under tenant control, versus the parking lot, the lighting in the parking lot will be under the Patriot Place control. So again, that will be tied into the lighting for the entire Patriot Place. Utilities, just briefly, utilities, there are existing, like, as I mentioned before, drainage on site. Sewer will be extended to the site, but it'll all be tied into their, on-site treatment system, along with the reuse water service that'll be tied into this building. Gas, electric, everything will be provided to this pad. So there'll be, we've got a utility plan that's included in this plan set as well. But we've got the utilities coordinated with Patriots Place, and, we'll further coordinate as that gets through, as we make it through into a building permit phase. And that's
The gray water, just like the rest of the stadium, will go into your retreatment plant?
correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the only comment we had received during our pre-app meeting was from the fire department regarding an FDC connection and a hydrant. So we are providing a location of the FDC, which is I'll use my cursor, it's in the southeast corner of the building here. And then we're also providing a hydrant location at the rear, kind of along Patriots Place Way. And I'll zoom in, it's basically here. And again, within 100 feet of that FDC connection. So that's something that the fire department wants to look into, so we're providing that here as well. So that being said, I mean, I want it to be a little briefer than that, but I will kick it over to Jeff Dirk.
That was me, so,
VA.
sorry.
VAI, and then I'll after Jeff describes his presentation, I will flip over to the building elevations and share with you all what that will look like. So, Jeff, take it away.
Great, thanks, Joey. And Joey, if you wouldn't mind, could you go back to just the colored landscape plan or the site plan? Thank you. So we've undertaken a detailed transportation analysis for this project to look at more or less how it would impact the Route 1 corridor, but also looking at the internal circulation for the site and some of the things that Joey had spoken about. Just kind of by way of some history, some of you may recall that we actually undertook the review of the previous location for this restaurant on behalf of the town when it was proposed over near the Starbucks, near the P7 location. And as we looked at that, and actually in looking at that site and comparing it to this site, this site is actually much better for the use and the location of the use for a number of reasons. One of those, as we were looking at the Starbucks site, was just having 2 drive-through restaurants. With this being a more traffic-intensive use, kind of the mix of what was going on from a traffic flow and queue storage, much better situated at this location itself and more contained within the lot that's there. So as we're looking at this, it's really from the standpoint of assessing impacts. This is really just a relocation of a restaurant that was already been assessed for the Route 1 corridor. And in fact, Mass DOT has issued a driveway permit for the previous location. So from the state's perspective and its interaction with Route 1, this restaurant has actually been approved along the frontage here of the stadium already by Mass DOT. And so we did have coordination with them in looking at this new location. And in fact, Mass DOT has determined that an access permit or a permit from them is not going to be required for this restaurant location. And the reason for it is some of the questions that the board was asking, which is that there's no new road work being undertaken within the state highway to accommodate this project. There's very good access to this site, given the existing driveway at P8 that serves the driveway here. And as I think as the board was discussing the frontage of the property along this P8 driveway, some of the important things to point out is you do see that there's a new left turn lane being striped within the existing paved area. There's no widening of the pavement taking place, but what we're doing is reallocating the space that's there, shrinking down slightly that island area as you head towards the flyover ramp. So if you kind of pan your hand to the right there, whoever has the pointer, we're shrinking the island area that's there at that 4-way intersection to allow for the addition of a left turn lane. So essentially the new traffic that's being added to go to the restaurant itself is being accommodated in a new lane within the existing pavement area that's there. And then we're maintaining the existing through travel lane to head back into Patriot Place. So from the standpoint of Patriot Place in the internal roadway network, we're adding capacity by having the left turn lane and not reducing any capacity by way of maintaining the through movements there and then the access to the ramp. So as you're thinking about accessing the property, I think as was talked about previously, you can get into the project site using the signalized entrance that's over near where the P10 driveway is and come in the property that way if you're coming from the 95 area. If you're coming from 495, you can come in Bass Pro Drive or make the right-hand turn, which is what most people would do to come into the P8 driveway, circulate within the site, and then as you exit the property, you have direct access to the flyover ramp to get back onto Route 1 to travel south. If you want to travel north on Route 1, you can go back out the P8 driveway and make the right-hand turn and travel along Route 1, or you can go into Patriot Place, either use the P7 driveway, which is the next driveway to the north, or travel out by way of the driveway that's opposite the P10 driveway. So circulation and access is much better at this location than it is at where it was previously at the P7 site. As we were looking at impacts of the project along the Route 1 corridor, what we found in terms of capacity is there's plenty of capacity to accommodate the project. As everyone knows, that the Route 1 is really designed to handle stadium event-related traffic, and so when there's not events happening, there's a lot of capacity on Route 1. And I think one of the board members had mentioned, fortunately for this type of a use, it's not going to be open when there's major stadium events taking place. So as we looked at impacts along the corridor, what we showed in terms of looking at all the signalized intersections between Pine Street and Water Street, the addition of this use to this site on the Route 1 corridor was delays didn't go up at any of the intersections by any more than 5 seconds, and any queuing at the intersections, if you think about what's backing up there today, didn't go up by any more than 5 vehicles. And all of the intersections were operating at good levels of service, meaning that the delays and the queuing that were happening were within actual design parameters of the Route 1 corridors. There was nothing that was operating over capacity, either before or after the addition of the restaurant's traffic. So from an off-site perspective, minimal impact. From an on-site perspective, looking at circulation around the site, the addition of that left turn lane adds enough capacity to be able to accommodate the ingress traffic to the restaurant itself. Lastly, in terms of looking at the circulation within the site, from the drive-through perspective, we've worked on a number of Chick-fil-A restaurants in eastern Massachusetts. We've monitored those locations with respect to the drive-through queuing, and I think as some of the board members had mentioned, and as Joey had pointed out, as it relates to queuing, that's a very sensitive area for Chick-fil-A, so they have an operations plan that deals with trying to minimize and reduce queuing during peak demand periods. The drive-through that's shown here with the 3 lanes, the capacity in the drive-through, if you stacked from the pickup window all the way to where the entrance is to the drive-through, you can accommodate somewhere between 41 and 44 vehicles in the drive-through lane. So the 3 lanes merging into the 2 lanes to where the pickup area is there, that's the capacity. So it's about 44 vehicles maximum. Observations that we've done at 3 drive-through facilities in eastern Massachusetts for Chick-fil-A, the average queuing is about 11 vehicles. The maximum queue is about 25 vehicles for these similar type of designed facilities. So what you see is a facility that's designed for anywhere from 2 to 4 times the capacity of what's actually been observed. And so that's done on purpose, just really because they want to make sure that we don't spill back into the parking lot. So this facility is designed so that the circulation and the queuing, it's all contained within the site, and it's not something that's going to back up into the parking field. But even to the extent that there were a situation where it did back up a little bit beyond, the 25 or the 40 that's shown there, you can see it's still contained within the parking field. So it's not something that's going to impact the public way. So that's kind of a high-level summary of the analysis that we've undertaken for the project. And again, as I had mentioned, we did review this with the Department of Transportation, and they've indicated that an access permit is not required for this project, just given the fact that we have no modifications taking place out on Route 1, and the impacts on Route 1 are to an extent that they don't feel that there's any improvements necessary. So I'll turn it back over to the project team.
Before you leave, Jeff, just a question for you on the other engineer here. So would it be either or both of your point of view that most people who are going to go to the driveway are going to go to that far entranceway because it's easier to go up towards where the driveway is as opposed to the one where the exit comes off of food pickup?
Correct.
You think they're going to enter to the right?
Correct.
Yeah, but so the natural flow when you look at it is if you're pulling into the left turn lane, you've passed the first driveway by the time you want to really make the turn in. So, unless you're really familiar with this site, most people are going to transition into that left turn lane and then turn into the second driveway.
And there'll be wayfinding signs.
I was going to say you'll have signage that'll direct them to drive through on that way. Okay,
correct.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to very briefly, I think if you're looking at if we zoom in on that island, Joey, I'm sorry. So the island we were talking about where it's difficult to make the turnout, it's probably about twice the width between Patriot Place and the exit of the drive-through compared to what you have at that Starbucks. The distance between the curb and the exit from the drive-through at the Starbucks, from what I could see, is it's 6 feet at best, and there is no way you can turn an automobile given that distance from the drive-through and get out into the driveway. So this is at least double that. That other drive-through won't work the way you'd like it to, just because there's not enough depth there, and this is about twice that depth.
I just asked where you were when when that was being designed and these guys approved it. I was not a part of the board.
Sure, you weren't on the board then, yeah. Huh?
Just saying.
Yeah. And just to kind of wrap up our presentation on the screen is just some renderings. And again, this is just a prototypical build here, similar to most Chick-fil-A's. This is the current prototype for their building, and it also shows the building signage there as well. So, and again, like I mentioned early on, the traction closure does match the brick and, the same size you see here, so.
They always look good.
Yeah.
Gary has never been to a Chick-fil-A.
You'll have to,
We're gonna
indoctrinate him.
Well, we're gonna do that before the opening of this one. I'll take him to Attleboro. Did Walpole open yet?
No, it's a couple weeks.
And And they got a Duck Donuts.
I know. I actually didn't know that that was there until a few months ago. I went down at the Outer Banks and I was like, there's one up here?
Yeah. It's like Christmas.
Yeah.
I know.
Could we just clarify, Jeff had just mentioned in his presentation that this would not be an operation for any stadium events or major stadium events. So is it Sunday or is it?
Yeah, to clarify, it's
that.
Sunday. If there's a weekday or Saturday, it would be in operation.
Concert or whatever.
Yeah, and we've talked extensively, the credit you're giving the Chick-fil-A folks for moving traffic around their site. I would like to say we have a pretty good history of moving traffic. So we're making all of the availability of our traffic management outside of the property in the event, during a stadium event, to make sure it's very important to them that they continue to have access when they're open.
Yeah, I think you guys do a great job as well.
And so when they're open, it's off limits for general parking for you
Exactly,
folks?
yes, it's their lot.
Because I'm just thinking, 143 spaces, 8 spaces is a lot for that seating capacity. So I
Are
was
you
just
concerned
wondering,
people are
what
gonna
kind
park
of
there?
event would you envision at this location itself? Not necessarily, if the stadium was in operation, that would need that much parking.
Yeah, I mean,
It really does.
again, we would manage that, if they got to capacity. It's not an ideal experience to be going in and coming out of there, Generally in those situations, you're probably gonna see more people maybe walking up to it and using it that way, bringing their 100 sandwiches back to their tailgate.
That'll be a happy day.
It's true.
They'll order it on the mobile app.
Yeah.
Right.
But no one would drive over there during an event, for
It's,
sure.
it's not conceivable to do that.
And to your point on the parking too, it's not only just the interior dining too. They do have mobile order pickups where customers will park, go in, and then pick up their meals, and they do, a big part of their business is that. In fact, we were at the Worcester location recently, and even at 9 o'clock at night, there's 20 mobile orders stacked up waiting for customers to get there.
Is that to avoid the
Yeah, people just,
drive-through?
correct. They either avoiding the drive-through, or it's also third-party delivery, Uber Eats, Grubhub, all that.
There's a Chick-fil-A app.
There is. Get points, you get free meals, yeah. It's a good app.
It's also a Patriot Place app.
I know about that one.
No, every time I'm up there, I forget to check in too, and then I remember after I'm home, I'm losing points.
Well,
Well,
now that you're getting married, you can have multiple
Anything from you
people
guys?
contributing.
No, Joey touched on that, or I think Ted touched on that. We had a meeting with staff. It was well-attended, and
Wait, were there free
Is there
Chick-fil-A's?
lunch? Yes.
they were not. I think that was the expectation.
I have to say that I did go to a wedding last year in Maryland, and at 10 p.m., they brought in Chick-fil-A sandwiches and lemonade. It was good.
Very popular.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Gabby, go ahead.
All right.
I'm very excited.
So the fire department required, a fire hydrant, and but they said that they would not have any concerns about having access to the building.
Great.
Chief Kelleher was there at the meeting, and the Deputy Chief Laracy was also at the meeting, so so they were okay with it.
All right.
We could ask if there was anyone here from the audience to speak, but I don't think there is.
Yeah, Mr. Krantz and the gang there.
Maybe Peter wants to speak.
Good day when you don't hear from Peter or I.
All right.
Well, with that invitation, I know Dan is just cringing, but I apologize for not being with you in person. I was double booked this evening, but I think this is a really good addition. The only thing I'll add to what Ted and Joey's presentation is that this is exactly what the EDA contemplates, in terms of productive infill development that is accretive and furthers the goals of the EDA under your ordinance.
Peter, we couldn't
So-
agree more.
And not only is it, to Tracy's enthusiasm for the end user, it's also very much consistent with your master plan and your zoning. So I do know that Ted and I had prepared, just based on the 2019 approval, an updated set of draft conditions, just in anticipation for your review. And I think, Abbie, we shared those with you likely yesterday.
Yes, I'm passing them down to the board now.
And the only thing I'll say there is we updated it to reflect Jeffrey's recommendation in his report. But otherwise, from our view, and Gabby and Catherine can confirm, it's consistent with the prior approval, and it's been updated to reflect your typical standard conditions as well.
And Peter beats things like a dead horse, so does Tracy. That's why we get along. What about the driveway concern? That entrance concern?
Tracy, I was thinking about that as you had raised it and as Jeff had suggested it. I have a suggestion on that one. If you, there's probably, and this is up to the board and staff, but if you wanted Jeffrey to examine those widths, particularly relative, and provide staff, confirmation in terms of widths, I think you could also just add an additional condition that said that the design of the leftmost entrance shall be, evaluated and, if appropriate, widened to prevent vehicles exiting the drive-through from swinging over the center line. But from what I hear from Jeffrey, that doesn't seem to present a concern relative to the example that you raised. But just for the board's peace of mind, you could have that Jeffrey confirm that and submit, an updated short memo to the board.
Okay. Can I rephrase it, just or reread it, what you just said, just to make sure that we're all clear right now? So if we were to add a condition, it would probably make sense to do it under traffic, right? So it would become condition 10 with the utilities becoming condition 11, et cetera. So this condition would read something such as, the design of the left entrance would be evaluated and, if appropriate, widened to prevent exiting vehicles from crossing the center line.
You guys okay with that?
Would that be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be good with that.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Jeff, does that sound good to you too?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Are we good?
And just for your, I guess, peace of mind, Gabby and I both reviewed the proposed
comfortable?
conditions, and we're fine with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want one more thingy?
Sure.
Make a motion. I lost my thing. To approve the request for minor modification to the site plan approval, Gillette Stadium, construction of a Chick-fil-A, Foxborough Realty LLC, with the conditions as outlined in the draft, along with the addition of the reevaluation of the leftmost entrance and widened if needed, so that the people exiting do not cross over the center line.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have a chance at opening next fall.
You're welcome. My birthday's September 7th.
You'll be cutting the grand opening ribbon, I can see it.
Tracy's it on a Sunday?
No. If Robert's going to be there, we'll bring my dad, who's his twin.
Move to adjourn?
Yes, we're adjourned. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.